Hello everybody. As you know, this is part 2 of the project that's for our furry family members. So I thought I'd share mine with you. This is Raven. She's a rescue. And I got her for me, but she fell in love with my husband. This is Spirit. Everybody loves Spirit. And this is a poster my daughter made to raise funds for one of her rescues that she always worked with, the Lucas County Dog Warden. As you can see, the walls are rather textured, so the contact paper didn't want to stick very well. So I'm just using spray glue to put a nice coat down. It doesn't have to be completely coated, but let it dry for a few seconds, otherwise it can melt your contact paper. If it just sits and dries down a little bit, it's extremely sticky and will not let your paper go anywhere. Unfortunately, because I'm using camera in one hand, I'm using my hand to smooth it. You really should use a credit card or something. Use a good sharp X-Acto knife to do all the trimming you're going to need to do. No matter how carefully you measured, you're still going to have some overhang here or there. And in the case of mine, I even had some odd shapes to cut around. For the craft project we're working on, I went to the Dollar Tree and I bought these tiny, they're 1.5 by 3 inch frames, and I printed out little things that I made up. It says home is where my human is, and then I did this one that says mom, and it's got a picture, just a silhouette of a dog. And then I did another one that's a silhouette of another dog that says dad, and I'm going to be affixing these to the walls inside the dog table that we're making. I'm going to get to the sewing of the pad here in a bit and how to attach the curtains. If you're not used to working with a rotary cutter, do be aware it is extremely sharp. It is a round razor blade. If you don't have one, you can absolutely use scissors. But I would also highly recommend you invest in a rotary cutter and mat. You cannot use a rotary cutter without that green mat you see. It doesn't let it cut through because it is as sharp as a razor blade, if not sharper. It will cut through everything. That's why you have to have a specialty mat. Now once I get this unpinned, I'm going to check to make sure that I'm putting it right sides together. That's very easy to do with fleece. All you have to do is grab any raw edge and stretch. fleece always rolls toward the right side. So I'm placing that right side up, and I'll place my other piece right side down and pin it together. Now if you don't want to use a zipper, that's fine. Just go ahead and sew around, leaving an opening for stuffing. I highly recommend you use a silky polyester stuffing. It tends to last longer and not bunch up. That way if they wash it, they can just fluff it up when it comes out of the dryer and it'll be perfectly fine. You'll notice that I'm putting the pins along the edge horizontal. That's so that as I sew, I don't have to worry about sewing over them, and they can stay in place and hold the fleece and fur together well, because they are very soft. They will walk as you sew, and you'll have one piece much longer than the other. So pins do come in handy with this. I've already cut the opposite end of this piece of fabric, and now I've measured down 25 inches and made another cut. And now I'm going to measure up 4 inches for our tie backs and cut that off. So I now have a 21 inch piece and a 4 inch piece. This is single layer fabric, not double. So there's not 2 individual pieces of fabric that are 21 inches long. There's only one. As you can see here, I am finger pressing that 4-inch line. And folding and folding again. And now I'm going to take it to the machine. I do a little back stitch right there at the beginning. And as I go along, I'll open it and make sure that first fold is touching the marked line on the inside. Again, we marked both sides so we get a professional finish. And then I'll make sure, see right there, I'm making sure the fold, that raw edge is touching that line. Now refold it and make sure that the chalk line is on our fold. Stitch as close as I can to the inner fold there. Now as I get closer to the bottom, I'll check one last time that the raw edge is folded right and that my chalk line is my bottom fold. But then I will also make sure that my edges line up, because it could have been, pulled a little bit as I was sewing. I may have too much or not enough. So I'll give it a little tug and then finish the stitching, and that way the sewing machine will deal with any ease I need to deal with. And it comes out even at the end. And then I'll do a little back stitch. Trimming my threads as I go, otherwise you end up with quite a mess. Making sure that I stitch on that line at the top. There's no folds, it's not hemmed over, the raw edge is still there. I'm just pleating a few, maybe an inch, folding it, tucking it under the presser foot while the needle's still in the fabric, and then taking a couple of stitches. I'll stop again, put the needle in, lift the presser foot, make another fold, tuck it under the foot, put the presser foot down, and take a couple of stitches. Hand wheel to make sure the needle's in, lift the foot, make another fold, tuck it under the foot, take a few stitches. I do this all the way to the end to create the look of a gathered curtain on a rod. I'm just very careful to keep my stitching line on that marked line, because we're also going to use that as a guide for where we put our Velcro, and when the Velcro hangs, they will hang evenly. Here I'm just looking to see how much excess fabric I will have above my Velcro, and my Velcro is on at the bottom of it at that line, at our stitching line. And now I'm going to serge it off, but you could easily trim it off with a pair of scissors. Checking to make sure I took off enough. And now I'm adhering the Velcro to the fabric. I'm lining up the bottom of the Velcro piece with that stitching line where we stitched our pleats. And now, just for added security, just in case that sticky tape doesn't want to stay attached to fabric very well, I'm just going to run one line of stitching very close to the bottom of that Velcro. So there's the backing. I just pulled off that Velcro, and I'm going to use it to cut the next piece so it's the same size. And this is the loop part, the soft part that I put on the fabric. Now I need to cut 2 hook sides that I will attach to the doghouse. And once I'm done with that, I'll finish up the other half of the curtain. And then we can move on to the I've cut the point, and now I'm going to sew them. Do a little back stitch at the beginning so you don't end up with a hole. When you get to a point, hand wheel your needle into the fabric, lift the presser foot, and turn to follow the next angle. And again, hand wheel it in, lift the presser foot and turn. Now you're not going to sew all the way down. You need enough room to turn these right side out. So at some point, you'll want to stop and back stitch a little bit. Remove it from the machine. Move down a few inches and start sewing again. Just following those angles. Back stitching. Now take a regular pair of scissors and trim off any place there's an angle very close to your stitching. So when you turn it right side out, it lays nice. And you won't have as much bulk. Now I have a nice long pair of hemostats for turning things right side out, but you use whatever method you like. If you don't have anything, believe it or not, a safety pin works just as well. Finger pressing again. And now we're going to top stitch that where that opening is. We're going to top stitch that whole edge to close the opening and add a little decorative element. And do that for the other one, and now you'll have two. Now we're going to sew on our button. My machine has a button sewing bar tack. Just set it for that. Make sure your stitch length is at 0. My stitch length is at 0. My width, I still have to adjust. I already started to sew this one and forgot to film it, so I'm starting over to show you. You hand wheel it in until it goes into the first hole. It takes a little maneuvering. And then keep turning your hand wheel until it's going in and out of the holes easily. Then you can hit the gas and sew it on. Trim off your threads, and you're good to go. Now I've taken 2 small pieces, both sides of Velcro, and I'm adhering it to the back of the tie backs. And I left the sticker on the one side, as you can see. Hot glued in place. That's the touch light I got for less than $10. But I did put 1 drop of super glue on each pad just to make sure it stayed in place. And being very careful that everything feels even. Just start in the same place. They're as far out from the edge as each other. And I'm sliding the other curtain into the tie. They don't open, they're decorative. I've taken off the adhesive, and now I'm just going to try to make sure I attach it in the same place evenly with the other side. And there we have it, folks. One spoiled, rotten dog bed and table. Depending on the size of the table, it could be for a small dog, small to medium dog, even larger. If you're using a coffee table, you could go up to Great Dane and German Shepherd size, I suppose. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you do anything like this or copy this project, I'd love to see some pictures. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Be well and stay positive.